And back on. What is up, Rebel Nation? Andy McCabe here with Joe and Zach in the wings somewhere, I'm assuming. We are, this is the Restoration Rebel Roundtable for the 23rd of June already, 2022. So I've got some things to talk about. I got some shit to talk, but first we're going to talk about the agreements like we do every single time. All right, agreement number one: I will protect the value of my services. Offering free services only serves to erode the value of similar services industry wide. Comp bids is what we're talking about here. Agreement number two: I will practice incredible transparency. I will explain the claim process to my client. I will not hide pricing details or falsify reports. Ward law. I will never communicate with an adjuster without also communicating with my client. Agreement number three: I do not believe in competition. The restoration companies in my market are part of my community. I will be an active member of my community. It is our unbreakable unity that will create the change we strive for. And number four: I am willing to walk away from any project, client, or contract that is not compatible with my values and stated mission. No relationship is worth losing money, sleep, or my humanity. For the love of humanity. What's left up, boys?
Legacy.
What do you guys? Yeah, man, legacy. I'm a huge fan of Gary Vee. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you guys probably picked up on it. I don't know how many other people picked up on that. There's a sign, this thing up here. It says one life, 400 billion to one. And also this. So what Gary Vee likes to say is he wants to be historically correct, right? So if you're afraid of hurting people, I mean, not hurting people, insulting people or upsetting people, you're going to be less apt to speak your truth. So I see it as my job to speak the truth in the industry, and I want my legacy to speak for itself. I am going for legacy. I'm not going for money. I'm not going for whatever else. And I'm not trying to be president of the United States here, but I want to leave this industry. I want my legacy to be this industry is better because I was a part of it and I spoke up. So that's my job. That's how I see it. Yeah, I want to talk about this job I saw, but you guys haven't been on for a while. What's up in Ohio?
Staying busy. We're actually writing some stuff on behalf of a carrier, which is interesting. It's a small carrier.
What?
You'd be shocked how fair they're being. Like our depreciation, these houses are anywhere between 70 to 100 years old. So you'd figure depreciation should be pretty heavy, right?
Maybe.
Max depreciation on almost everything is like 10 to 20%.
Okay.
They don't want them to have to, they're like, if we've got to insure this shit box, I want them to be able to fix it and not just leave it where it is. Like, fair enough.
But it's recoverable, right?
No, non-recoverable depreciation.
ACV policy, huh? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Those are tough.
They are tough. But I mean, they're being very fair to these people. We've enjoyed it. It's just writing roofs and exteriors, pretty easy stuff.
I've had State Farm depreciate things to zero. And, even 50% is like, does the value of that thing ever drop to that level? And I would argue no, because it's always going to retain some sort of value. There's a stopping point where depreciation just doesn't make any sense anymore, because you can still sell that house as it sits for a certain dollar amount. So, and the whole using age and condition for depreciation and completely ignoring market considerations, market value, I think it's wrong. I don't think it's the right way to do it.
Well, that's why we're in the current situation we're in, where you could go buy a house for $250,000 and about 6 months later, it's gonna be worth about $350,000.
Yeah, well, that trend is going to flip. We're seeing that already in some markets.
And then people are going to be screwed.
It's already started.
Yeah, people are going to be screwed.
OL. Yeah.
New sales are down 13%.
Oh, yeah. And it's just starting. It's just
Uh-huh.
starting. But guess who's in the best industry that would never hardly be affected by this? We are. This is the most recession-proof industry there is, thanks to Mother Nature. I'm going to show some stuff here. I'm going to show. Let me see if I can.
Show and tell time.
Show and tell time. I'm going to show what Rimkus engineers. Actually, he was an architect, but he kept calling himself an engineer. Said this roof is wear and tear, improper installation. I mean, how do I get back over here? Let me share. Let's go here. Yeah, let's go. Let's share that. Okay, so you can't really see much here, but you can see there's some moss. All right. This house was built in 1998, so it's 24, 25 years old. This is the presidential. What's the name of that shingle? Can't think of it now, but it's a 50-year shingle. So I get up on this roof, and there's a lot of moss here, but what? There's a shingle just sitting there. Huh? Funny. You can see here there's another shingle sitting there. The ridge has been all blown. This is wind damage. This is wind damage from last year. You can just go through until I find what I'm looking for here. I would venture to guess that 80% of these shingles I could lift with a finger.
Hands down.
They love to fight that. It'll reseal, they say.
Yeah, I was just on a roof in Texas with an engineer, and that's all he wanted to keep saying is, "Oh, you can pick it up, but it'll reseal in the heat." It's like, well, it's 100 degrees, sir. So what heat does it exactly reseal?
At what point does it reseal? There's some more.
It's 1 p.m. in the afternoon, 100 degrees, Texas. At what point is it going to reseal here?
Right, and that's the one we went on like 4 days after it happened, and it was still wet and had debris under it. And guess what? When I went back in May, they were still loose.
Yeah. So this was a year. This is a year ago. If they were gonna reseal, they would have.
Oh yeah.
You can see visible tears. This is never gonna reseal ever. I'm trying to find. So I started lifting these things, and if it's properly sealed, you've got to use a tool to lift these things. You got to use a tool to get under it to lift it up, to inspect it. These where I was doing with my hand. All right, there's one. And so I'm lifting up one, but you can see all of them around them are just lifting. I mean, I'm not putting any pressure on that at all. And this thing, anytime the wind picks up, it's flapping. It's the whole entire roof is just flapping. It's just a matter of time until this thing gets pulled apart. So Rimkus says this is improperly installed and not enough maintenance was done on this roof. And their report says the wind exacerbated the damage that was already there from improper installation.
They love that argument, the improper install.
Yeah, it's so dumb. It's so dumb. How do I turn this thing?
Andy, can I interrupt you real quick?
Go ahead.
This is pertinent to what you're doing. Remember when, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but I found a white paper that was done with some of the major carriers and the Institute for Insurance and engineering firms and roofing manufacturers, and it talks about wind damage and what they found in controlled tests, when it starts and how it looks.
Okay.
The pattern you showed on there, that was like in a zippering pattern, right? Those are always the fail points. They start around the eaves or by hips and they come up that way.
Yeah.
Yep. Do they have the white paper, Zach? Okay, yeah.
Tell Andy offline.
Yeah.
Well, for those of you who don't know that are listening or will be listening to this, Joe and Zach write for Claims Delegates. among other things.
We'd
And
love to write your sheet.
we'd love to write your sheet. And Joe, you are going to be writing this for me. You're going to be writing this one up.
Thank you.
And so I had to take a picture of their State Farm's inspectors. Even once he got off the roof, he's like, "Yeah, I see some damage, but a lot of improper installation." So we had the roofer go up there and put some business cards underneath. This is a totally different face than the one I was lifting shingles on, and you can see it. I mean, look at, they're just, I mean, those are not hard. Those are flimsy business cards holding up these presidential shingles. Who makes
Does that represent the house of cards that is about to fall down on the insurance side?
Well, it's State Farm. So they are going to fight it. They're going to fight it every single time. Mitch. Oh, Mitch is in the room. Where is Mitch? Was he a HAG certified adjuster? No, this was a engineer from Redmond, Washington. I'm just going to continue through here. I mean, it's a nice house. It's a nice roof. And it's got verifiable wind damage that State Farm just simply doesn't want to pay for. All right, I think I did it all. I think you saw them all. All right, come over here.
You didn't bring your State Farm roof snake. That's the problem.
Ah, there was that. There was that.
Looks like we found an insurance snake under this one. Just have like a little snake under the shingle. Whoop, it'll bite you.
Yeah. Oh, I gotta show you this one. I gotta show you. Where's this one? Craptastic. I've got too many windows open. I'm gonna share one more time. Okay. So this is the house in question. Can you see my cursor?
It's loading.
Okay. There's a white truck in the driveway. That's the house. And when you can see it from 700 feet in the air, you can see this entire face is just ripped to shreds. But the reason I took this photo is because I can come over here and go, hey, there's some tarps on that roof. Okay. And I can come over here. Oh, I got a better picture of this one, but on the far over here, these are repairs. This is patching that's been done.
Mm-hmm.
What else? I saw some more.
Ooh. Yeah, you can tell.
And so, I mean, it just establishes the pattern that, and then I got the drone out when Snake Farms and inspector was up there.
Are you referring to the precedence of local damage to the
Yes,
claim?
I am.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. And there was another couple. I did some flybys. I did a pretty good, thorough investigation. So you can see the wind was coming off, out of the valley up this ridge and just hammering every single one of these houses that were sitting on this ridge. Now I'm going way too far.
Damn, what's that one? Like 600 feet?
It's a good shot.
This is the pile of shingles that we found a year later on the roof and on the property. Oh,
wow.
All right, I think I'm going in circles now.
So what, did State Farm's adjuster basically not agree with whoever the roofing company was? You end up getting involved and they get their engineer involved?
This particular roofer is fairly sophisticated. They have an AOB.
Okay.
So using AOB, the roofer filed suit against State Farm. So this is a lawsuit.
Got it.
All right, I'm going in circles. Stop. There we go.
Basically.
Okay, we got some people waiting out in the wings here. Let's see if we can get them in the room. Joe Sears is back. Good to see Joe Sears. Okay, Joe says, I just spoke with my local adjuster from USA yesterday. He told me he always accepts and approves roofing RFG instead of DMO. I was like, did we just become best friends? Yes. Well, that doesn't happen a lot. Let me tell you that right now.
What's the funniest thing about it is he just replaced our old USA local adjuster retired. So he replaced her, and he's like, I came from Florida. He's like, I saw that all the time in Florida, and he's like, I'm fine with it. He's like, as long as you're not trying to charge me a stupid amount of money for like a train or something. He's like, I usually don't care that much.
Yeah. I just played a video. Now I can't. Why can't I play the video? I guess to just share this. Share this. Come back. Go here. There we go. So you can see this. All these houses sit up right up on this ridge, a couple 100 feet, and everything comes out of the valley. The wind comes out of the valley so strong. I'm just ripping these houses to shred. And the reason we're not seeing damage on the house next door, it's a brand new roof because they had what? Wind damage. Huh. Funny. Yeah, so State Farm took a look at this last year and said that's $5,000 worth of repairs.
Really?
$5,000 under the deductible magically. Thank you, Rimkiss. Or to be known from this point forward as Rim Kissers.
I was gonna say it sounds like ass kiss to me.
What's that?
It sounds like ass kiss to me.
Well, Rim is in there.
Exactly. And that's exactly where they'll kiss them.
Kissing the rim of the kissers. I might get some heat for the post I just put up. But I don't care. I don't care. Do you guys see this one? Hold on. Let me come. Now I'm just wasting time. I want to get into the S500 today. Here's this one. You guys see this one yet? Where's my zoom? What law? What law? Claim services. We lie so you don't have to. I'm going to get some heat from this. I think I'm going to get a phone call from this one. Pretty sure. Providing questionable evidence for your bullshit denials since 1965. So, yeah, just stirring the pot a bit today. I'm feeling a little randy. I had to spend, I could have driven back from Spokane and gotten home 2 hours before I did flying through Seattle. Yesterday was a terrible travel day. But we got some people in the room. So let's, Brian, unmute yourself. Sears, you can unmute yourself if you want. Mr. Stringer, unmute yourself. I'm going to go find the S500 because I sat down with Mr. Scott Whitaker of Restoration One Spokane yesterday, or day before yesterday, and he enlightened me on a couple things. I'm going to go find this, though. So, Roush, what's up? What's new? Talk to me. There he is.
Oh, well, I just got done sending out a quote for HVAC loss that we had to bring in 2 third parties to do proper forensic evaluation.
That's not the one I was on, was it?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, that thing's old.
No, not my sister's place. No,
Okay.
if I would have known these people back then, that would have had a different outcome.
Right.
That educated me that I needed these type people.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But long story short, improper installation caused the system to sweat and underperform, caused a lot of water damage and mold damage.
Okay.
The carrier, who will not be named, but they claim to be on your side, sent HVACI and said, oh, well, we're not going to cover the mechanicals because that's failure to maintain. No, it wasn't, just the 5-minute third-party consultant. So we had to bring in a forensic insurance loss evaluator. We had to bring in a qualified HVAC evaluator, and we got the installers who did this. Thus far, they have agreed, instead of going to court, to pay for the replacement and some of the repairs, because the carrier has already acknowledged the water loss for the other parts of the house. But the moment we start opening up, I know that's going to be supplemented. But
yeah,
yeah,
heavily.
that is just a replacement of the HVAC unit to bring it to proper standards is it's a 45K nut.
Ooh, just for the HVAC?
Yeah, HVAC and the associated repairs, because we have to open up walls and around registers and stuff so we can replace the registers in the boots and pull the duct, etc. Then we have to, tape, float, texture, repaint.
It
And
gets
I bet
expensive.
the moment I open up those walls, I'm going to find additional water damage.
Oh yeah, you will. Joe and I did one of those in October in Georgia for an improper HVAC install, but it was a commercial property. That one netted out around 850,000.
Good God.
But they subrogated the builder because the property was less than a year old, so the builder had to foot the bill.
Use their
Yeah, builder is GL. That's amazing, Zach. Holy cow. Well, this is a residential enrichment. So yeah, in my initial just for the water loss without correcting the improper mold and water mitt, I was at 70. It's going north of 100 now.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Anyway, I just want to say I love that meme that I finally got to join. So I wonder, did I have any influence with saying that, putting the yeets at the bottom of that one that you posted yesterday? Is that kind of why you tweaked it a little?
It's just, I had a lot of time in the airport yesterday. I sat in the Delta Sky Lounge for 5 hours in Seattle
Good
yesterday.
grief.
So, ugh.
It's a lot of gin and tonics.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe.
Mm. Yeah. If I was doing that for 5 hours, they would have had to pour me onto the airplane. They would have to carry me. So I don't know how many of you guys, I'm going to go ahead and share the screen of the S500. This is the 5th edition of the S500.
One went into effect last May.
May the
Uh,
11th.
Yeah. When was it? Let me go back
May
to
the 11th.
Yeah, Joe remembers that day well.
Yep.
May 11th, 2021. Okay. So how many of us have been crucified or attempted to be crucified on the basis of grain depression?
Yeah.
A lot.
So where in the S500 does it mention grain depression? And since this is a searchable document, I just did a search. And guess what?
Doesn't
Grain
show up.
depression comes up 0 times. 0 times. So GPP, grains per pound, you get a definition of grains per pound, right? S500 does that for us. Gives us a humidity ratio. And that ratio is your difference between how much water the air can hold versus how much water the air is currently holding. Okay. Another there, and then it talks about prevailing weather and mentions GPP. Okay, thank you S500 for that. And then humidity ratio again. All right, but nowhere in this entire document, I'm going to leave this up for a second. Nowhere in this entire document does it talk about grain depression and measuring the input and output of dehumidifiers, specifically for GPP. And so why do we put up with their bullshit excuses that you didn't have enough grain depression, so we're not going to rent you that equipment that day? And I'm going to put this to the group that's here. What are your thoughts on that?
Thinking it's edition 4 because the new standard actually defines some things that give us a bite as a restorer. They can't downgrade the CAT or class on any loss, even if they get biological testing. That's all
Yeah,
part of the new standard.
that's my next subject. You're jumping ahead here. So let's go IEP.
While you're doing that, Andy, even though your dehues, even if the grain depression is reduced, they're still operating as a fan as well. still promoting air movement, still promoting air filtration.
Yeah, all of the above. All of the above. And at the end of the day, grain depression is not recognized by the IICRC as a legitimate, valid tool or measurement of effectiveness of a drying system.
Wow, that just shot 20
Yeah.
torpedo holes into the Yamato right there for the engine.
All right, so those of y'all at home, following along at home, if you have the current version of the S500, go to section 10.6.7 and then read this. I'm going to go ahead and read this just in case people are listening and not, oh, where was it? I just missed it. Okay. 10.6.7 preliminary determination. The preliminary determination is a determination of category of water, not class, category. If the preliminary determination is that water is category 1, then the restorer can proceed without contamination protocols. Blah, 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 blah. With regard to category 2 or 3 water intrusions, remediation should occur prior to restorative drying, and restorer shall use, not can use, contamination controls and appropriate worker protection, PPE. Where necessary, an indoor environmental professional, an IEP, should be used to assess the levels of contamination for humidity control in category 2 or 3 contaminated structures, referred to different section, blah, blah. In many cases, an assessment by an IEP on a water damage restoration project is not necessary, okay? However, if the inspection shows that one or more of the following elevated risk situations are present, then an IEP should be retained by one of the materially interested parties. Considerations can include, but are not limited to, occupants of high risk, okay, health risks, public health issues, elderly, child care facilities, public buildings, hospitals, a likelihood of adverse health effects on workers and occupants, a need to identify a suspected contaminant specifically.
ACM lead.
Contaminants are believed to be aerosolized, or a need to determine that the water actually contains contamination. The preliminary determination prepares the restorer to perform a pre-restoration evaluation. So where our mutual friend Scott Whitaker out of Spokane is using this is, questionable stuff, long-term stuff. They travel to, outlying areas that are more vacation rental or vacation second and third home type stuff where, something happens over the winter, they're not there till the summer, and it's pretty much, it got wet 4 months ago. It's going to be pretty funky once you get into it. He is using this section to get the carriers to pay for that IEP inspection. And then from that point, it's not him determining the category, and it's not him determining the protocol of remediation. The IEP comes in, does the testing, the pre-testing, establishes a protocol. Scott follows the protocol, and then the IEP comes back to, man, I got to turn my phone off. The IEP comes back to retest, clearance test, to ensure that the protocol was followed adequately and the job was done right. So
And
there
the
you go.
entire time you wait on that results, you have an air scrubber and your DHU set up, controlling the environment for 3 or 4 days or however long it takes IEP to get around before you even start the mitigation process.
Well, in the state of Washington, you've got to test for asbestos before you do it. It doesn't matter. Age of the structure is not relevant in the state of Washington. You've got to test everything. So there's your, but you'd be remiss as a restorer if you didn't try to at least control the environment with a DHU in the interim, after, in between taking the samples and getting the test done and getting the results.
Well, don't you? I mean, you almost have to, because once you step foot on your last man in the pool, you're the one out there. And if you didn't set up control or environmental controls while you waited, then you can be held liable as a contractor for secondary damages, because You're the professional.
100%. 100%. So I'm all about fighting back, using their, in this case, we get beat over the head with the S500 or a bastardized interpretation of the S500 every single day. So it's time for us to start using it again in a real way, and in explaining that this is how things are done. This is, for lack of anything else, this is the standard of care. The S500 has been established and accepted by both sides of the claim environment that the S500 is the standard of care. So let's start following it. And when someone says, well, that wasn't Cat 3, that was a clean water source. Well, instead of trying to argue with them about it, just get the IEP in and have the IEP rub their nose in it, literally and figuratively.
But how do you? Okay, so here's my devil's advocate argument here. How do you just suggest we do that when we go in as professionals and we're like, we've seen this 100 times. This is a category 3 loss. And then afterwards, once the review process, they come at you and say, oh no, this wasn't category 3. This should only be a category 2. You don't have anything left to sample now at that point.
Well, that's why you have to get the IEP in first. If it's suspect, get the IEP, get the independent or the indoor environmental professional involved.
That's where I've seen the most hiccups in the system is like, you talk to the because I'm the kind of guy when I'm on a water job, call the adjuster, hey, courtesy email, here's what we got going on, just to give you a heads up. Here's what we saw when we walked on the property. And they're like, yeah, okay, cool, everything's done. Even if they don't answer, they send me an email back or call me back later and say, hey, got your message, everything sounds good. But then when it gets over to whoever they're having review it, whether it's in-house or out or subcontracted out, I've had a bunch of people trying to come back and be like, oh, well, based on all the information you provide, I don't feel like this was a category 3. And it's like, bro, like I already told the adjuster I was Cat 3 and he was in agreement. And now you're telling me you don't care. Like that's the biggest hiccup in the process, is because everything is so disconnected, because nobody ever knows who their mitigation reviewer is going to be. Who the adjuster is that's going to do the repair side, because they're the ones that, but you never know who gets the review. And those two people by design do not talk to each other ever, so they can have a breakdown of communication to slow the process down.
Show me your qualifications.
Yeah. Well, just do the testing. If you're going to do your own testing, get an ATP meter and do your own testing. But
yeah, I was going to ask you about that. How does that work?
ATP?
Have you had good success with it? And
I have my own personal one at all the time.
Well, I don't like I don't like doing my own mold testing. I don't like doing my own asbestos sampling and testing. So I'm going to be not very inclined to do my own bacterial activity testing. And that's what ATP is it measures a protein that's an indicative of biological activity. And just because there's biological activity doesn't mean it's bad biological activity. So that's why it's important that an IEP get involved to sample properly. Right. I mean, we can assume that the water came out of a plugged shitter and it's got floaties in it. We can assume contamination, but that pipe broke 3 months ago in the attic and it washed through the entire house. And now we're saying the basement is full of Cat 3 or Cat 2 water. I would still test that water. It's not an open and shut. There will always be room to argue until you get hard data.
So Andy, besides the biological in that situation, because we should be checking for other known hazards. I mean, if we're doing a water sample test, what else should we be testing for at that time to have the correct cleaning protocol?
Well, I mean, I would leave it up to the IEP or the hygienist But if you're going to do surface sampling, if you're going to be taking samples of water for culture in a petri dish, why don't you take air samples while you're at it? Do a complete full meal deal. I want to know what we're breathing in here. I
Right.
want to know if it's moldy, bacteria,
I've
E.
seen some
coli. stuff like that.
policies where they're saying they won't cover for environmental or hazardous material stuff.
If it's the cause of loss,
Right.
but it's not. It's subsequent to the cause of loss, which was the pipe break or the tree hitting the house or the hurricane
Or the fire.
It's not the bacteria itself or the mold itself is not the cause of loss.
Right. They'll still try to claim that though.
Well,
That's
hell yeah,
where-
they will. Yeah, because what if nothing else, what do companies like JS Held, Wardlaw, Rimkiss get paid to do? They get paid to provide plausible deniability to the adjuster. That's it. And whatever lie they have to make up, or however they have to twist the facts to make it fit their narrative, they're going to do that. And then it just becomes a point where we have to be better at establishing our own narrative and our own facts. But so I spent the last couple of days with an attorney over in Spokane, and I hung out with Scott Whitaker, Restoration One guy, for a few hours. And at the end of my trip, I came away going, we have to do better. We have to be better at preparing every single file we touch for litigation.
Yes.
5%, 1% of the files we touch are actually going to go legal. That doesn't mean we only prepare 1% of the files, or the files that we think might go legal. Look at the case I went out to look at is a perfect example of any normal person looking at this roof will go, it's shot, pay for the roof. And the roofer didn't do a real good job of documenting. He didn't chalk the roof. He didn't do lift tests. He didn't do anything. He just saw, oh man, this thing's shot, and he wrote it up for 80 grand.
That's the biggest problem I see from the exterior people is they'll take lots of pictures, but they don't document like the hits per elevation. I
Right.
think I'm going to come up with a protocol for exterior contractors for pictures.
You should.
They just kind of hodgepodge what they all know when they send their different guys out, and it's not working.
Hey, Joe. Actually, Alina Wilson, her team already have kind of that in place. Talk to her to help develop
Yeah.
it. Yep.
Hey,
Cool.
And then,
I did that forever. I'm a roofer.
What is your guys' default count? Is it 10 hits per square or 10 hits or 6 hits per 10 by 10 area, or how do you guys usually like to calculate out your counts?
Well, it depends on the age of the roof. It depends on repairability. It also depends on the material. For example, you have, and of course, if you have anybody that knows what a hit was, well, that's wear and tear. Every adjustment, that's wear and tear. But it's 8 hits. I did the Hague certification thing. I like the way you present that file, that documentation file.
Yeah, I
Right.
think I'm going to have to get Hague certified here in
Yep.
short order.
Yeah, I would highly suggest if you're going to do any kind of roofing and stuff, it just has credibility. If you're a roofer and you've been out there for a while, it's literally, I take pictures. And this is how I did it. I take pictures of all the elevations when I first get there. Driveway, all elevations, address. And then I start at the top and work my way down. I go clockwise on everything on the roof. I take a series of photos anywhere from, my test square. I'll probably have 4 to 25 pictures per test square showing the damages, overviews. And then I move on to the next thing you go. Yeah, there's a great example. I'm going to start on the top of that baby. And really, instead of going down to the lower roof, because everybody doesn't want to get up high, I'm gonna, you know, make those elevation walks.
Yeah, those top elevation shots from the upper tier when you're on those multi-tier roofs, that is a good picture to be like, yeah, you definitely know you inspected it when you got to the top and got those.
Right? So then I do all that, you know, and I'll go left to right, full circle, do all my metals on the roof, all that documentation, every item that's on that roof, I have a photo of, and I've looked for damage. Then I start my way back down.
Beautiful.
Start at the front. I go left clock, you know, clockwise all the way around. So I'll start right there on the left corner and start moving to the left side and come all the way full circle to the front, documenting all damages. I mean, I'll have 200-300 photos. Doesn't mean I'm not going to use them, but I am not driving back.
I gotta admit
know?
something.
That's how you do it right. Yeah.
I didn't walk this entire roof because I got to this point right here and I stepped up onto this, and
Yeah.
it's not any steeper, but it's a whole lot higher. And I got scared. My knees started shaking. I'm like, I'm all right, I'm off. I'm done.
Do you have the goat? Do you have the roof goat?
No.
He
Oh,
needs
you gotta
one.
get one of those. My buddies are telling me I'm in Lewiston, Idaho now. I'm not doing the roofing anymore. You know, I'm in the mitigation now. But they're swearing by it. They're like, dude, man, this is the best thing ever. And there's a really good inspection kit and program put out by Steve Patrick, isn't it?
I believe so. Steve has
Don't know.
something going on there.
don't
He's
know.
working with a drone company right now too.
Yeah, Steve's got a really good scenario that here's all the stuff you're going to need for your, for inspection on exterior stuff. And it's a pretty thorough kit. And I have that stuff, and that's just where I'm at. So my whole deal is, I'm going out there. I got calipers, I got digital calipers, I got the height gauges for the height gauge vehicles, pitch gauges, phones, cameras, all that stuff. Oh, cooler paws, I mean, you name it. I'm
Got your chalk with you?
So, Mitch, what's your opinion on what do you say when the adjuster or the inspector says, "Oh, yeah, you lost adhesion, but they'll stick back down. It's going to get hot enough, it'll stick back down." What do you say?
Here's a great one on there. So, in the Midwest, they'll have adhesion problems, and GF's got a good write-up on it. And so does that Certainty. I really like Certainty products. But GF had a write-up on it over because of dust. They were installing shingles, and it happened to me. I was installing shingles in Lincoln, Nebraska. And they were harvesting. I never thought anything of it. But they didn't stick. I'm like, what the hell? So I'm blaming the roofing company, right? They did a site, they got down there and took some samples. We took some samples. We got them under the microscope, and it was the chaff from the corn harvest. Just literally lined that.
It prevented a new roof from proper adhesion.
Yep. Brand new roof.
Yeah.
So they installed it when they were tilling the fields and the chaff came up. Wow.
Yep.
That's awesome.
That's one thing you don't think of.
They got out of it. They got out of the deal. I was not happy. I learned my lesson, and we just made it a point that, hey, we're not gonna install this time of year.
Yeah.
It was October. It was late. We shouldn't have been doing it anyway. In that part of the country, the sun was, past the equinox, and man, it just doesn't hit the north side.
Oh, so it didn't get hot enough.
Yeah, I mean, we were above the 45, 45th parallel. And so, yeah, it was a problem. It sounds weird, but it's a true story. And
Yeah.
that's what happens up north here. I see it all the time. I see cross matches. The guys aren't they're pulling from one bundle. They're not pulling from two. I mean, if you pull from two bundles, you'll never have a cross match ever. Never had that problem ever.
Wow.
But you gotta read the instructions, and that's the biggest part that I see is none of these guys have been trained on how to install the stuff properly. And consequently, adjusters come back and they go, well, was your crew trained? Yeah. Well, where's their certificates? I've had that question asked. We produce them. We put guys in the class. GAF will do a all Spanish speaking. We'll do all kinds of other stuff, classes like that. And it's pretty simple and easy. And we just did it every year. We actually brought like 109 guys yearly out of Mexico, returned guys legally across the border to roof for us because we were, a $30 million a year roofing company.
Oof.
So we flat roofs and a ton of residential.
$30 a day for a man. Wow.
That's a bargain. That is a bargain. All right, I'm stopping my sharing.
Not yet. Anyway, back to that S500, I'm interested in that stuff there because, I got my feet back wet into the mitigation stuff after being out of it for 10, 11 years. Coming back into it going, well, I remember this, I remember that. And I'm arguing back and forth about, well, the grain depression was not enough. And you got to lower your equipment rating. It's like, well, hey, I only buy one type of
yeah, there's no there's no white paper. There's no industry standard that talks about grain depression. I think they made it up. Where did that grain depression come from?
Well, I'm kind of wondering if it started way back when I was, I'm going to give my age away. 12,969, I think, was my first IICRC number. I started with a guy named Mike Thompson. Mike Thompson helped write that. And then Marty and Diane Lane out of Spokane, one of those carpet cleaners of the Northwest. It came from what I believe was vapor pressure issues. I remember being in places where they would start putting it was a big deal when you had a 50, dry 50 on the job, and you had it over a bucket. And man, look at that baby pulling the water out. Woohoo, And,
well, I remember depression used to be. I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry. Grain depression for a lot. I remember back before everyone had smartphones, and it was easy to calculate GPP through your phone. Everybody was mainly going grain depression back then because it was easier to say, hey, how much grain am I dropping here? Okay, we're dropping good enough to know that we're probably having good, we're having good numbers here and our machines are working correctly. Like I felt for the longest time it had started disappearing, and now all of a sudden it's come back with a vengeance again.
But vapor pressure and grain depression do not mean the same thing.
No, I think that's kind of where it started, though.
Well, and that's where I can see it started, but you're not technically talking about the same thing. You can have a vapor pressure differential when the grain depression is non-existent.
So this is what I saw is when we were, and I don't know about anybody else if you have ever had this issue. So we're sticking equipment inside of buildings and, getting it dried down, and we're loading the place down. It's temperature outside.
No, that's gonna be fun.
Inside differentials. We're pushing the moisture through the building.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was like, holy cow, what are we doing wrong here?
Well, you're not putting enough energy into the system.
Yeah, we weren't pulling the moisture out of the air.
Yeah.
Was the problem. The equipment wasn't able to do that. It wouldn't be able to handle the amount of pressure that we were putting into the air. And I believe that's kind of where it came from. It's like, are you
Yeah.
moving enough moisture out of this air?
Yeah. So the S500 has vapor pressure as the term 45 different times, has grain depression 0 times. So if grain depression and vapor pressure differential were interchangeable, you would think the S500 would be using grain depression at least 1 time, but they don't. So yeah, water vapor pressure is a pressure exerted by the molecules of water vapor on surrounding surfaces, usually expressed in inches of mercury or millimeters of mercury. Atmospheric pressure is the total pressure exerted by all gas components in the air. Water vapor pressure is only one component of the total atmospheric pressure. Since water vapor is a primary vapor of interest in the restoration industry, the term water vapor pressure is often shortened to vapor pressure, unless noted. When vapor pressure is used without qualification, it refers to water vapor pressure. They didn't mention grains per pound there. They didn't mention GPP. So don't fall for it. We are at 1:52. I'm going to open the floor. Who wants to talk about something? Who has a bee in their bonnet to have the last word today?
Well, I'll tell you guys. You guys remember the other day me telling you about my homeowner who, like, they flood cutted everything and was trying to only do $20,000 and all that. Don't know if you ever.
I don't
Well,
remember, but yeah.
I ended up talking to the adjuster, and he's like, "Yeah," he's like, I was completely misled by the TPA company how bad the job was, and he's like, we got to put this house back together again. He's like, unfortunately, they exhausted her mold coverage, and she doesn't want it back in the property. This adjuster actually told me, he's like, just factor the price list up about 30%, so I don't have to report back on that we're dipping into mold coverage. And if you have to do any more contents moving out of the house, because it was a hoarder house, he's like, just factor it in and get it all. I'll be fine with it. Like, he actually straight told me to do what we all do already, because it's easier on him than having to deal with trying to explain where the money's going to come from.
Wow. That doesn't happen very often.
Oh yeah. I was like, I could easily do that, guy. But
We're best friends.
Yeah. Yeah, I was very shocked. But yeah, he's got it's about $11,000 that I gotta get factored into the system, so that way and he's like, I'll prove it. He's like, just put it together for me, let me know what's going on. Because he's madder than hell. He's probably gonna ask for this TPA office, because
Good.
threw away the sinks, the faucets, the dishwasher, the fridge, the deep freezer at this lady's house. And nobody knows
This was a vendor, a TPA vendor.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
None of us. I was like, why the hell did they do all this? He's like, I have no clue. He's like, don't worry about the numbers. Just get the house back together again and everything. He's like, if I got to go after, he's like, it's a different department, so it's not even my headache. If they want to go after the TPA vendor to get their money back or something, he's like, just get it together and get her house put back together. I said, we're going to do that. So
yeah, we can do that.
Which just goes to show, guys, that it doesn't matter, regardless of what people say. These are all 100% acceptable ways of doing estimates and all. It's just normal times they don't want to deal with it.
Yep. Well, and you're in the right place at the right time. You've established yourself. You've established a modicum of trust with this particular adjuster, and he has an understanding that you are going to take care of the customer and you're going to do the right job. So that's perfect. I like it. All right, that's it, boys and girls. Poor little Hannah has been sitting out here in the waiting room this entire time, and I've been trying to get her in here to say something, but maybe next week, Hannah. Maybe next week. Until next week, y'all be good. Y'all keep fighting the good fight, and we're still going to be here. We're going to be in the group answering your questions and fighting a good fight on our own. So be good, people.
Everybody stay chilly. It's hot out.
It's
You guys, bye-bye.
Frosty.
Great,
Bye.
thank you.
Frosty.